Hello, one and all, and welcome on this balmy Friday evening for episode 65 of Opposite Field, a baseball podcast from us fine folks at Bleeding Your Colors. I am your host, as always, Trevor, joined, as always, by Colin. How you doing this evening, my friend?
Doing good. Doing good.
And as you can see from the background, you can kind of glean the topic at hand. But I think we need to touch on because we had a week off. We didn't get to really bring a bookend to the Paul Skeens discussion that we were having last episode. And
Yep.
since then, he's had three starts of varying degrees of dominance and usage of stuff.
Yeah.
What did you get from the first three outings from the new Gen Z baby Gronk replacement for Livy Dunn, Paul Skeens?
No, he's a real deal, and I he's not going to be on Pittsburgh his whole career.
Yeah, I think we've put that together, unfortunately. But
Yeah.
I think if we're going to talk about him as an actor, I think it had great range through his first three
Yes.
starts. The first two were against Chicago, and then against San Francisco, it was more of pitching to contact, where is against the Cubs both times. It was just a violent display of power more than anything.
Yeah. He can. I think he had that kind of confidence of like he doesn't care how long you've been in the major league. Like he's gonna show you up, and he's been backed up, or he's backed it up in all three starts. In fact, in his second start, if you want to qualify it, he threw a no hitter.
Oh, yeah, I don't think the bullpen gave him
No,
much help on that
no,
one,
no, they didn't. But
or
he threw,
or in any of his games, to be perfectly honest.
and I think that's he's gonna kind of. So the other thing is like, and you can totally see this uh, for his career in Pittsburgh, is that if they don't get him some help, whether it's in the lineup or whether it's in the bullpen, he's gonna be one of those guys who like has an ERA like under one, but he has like 10 losses on the season because he just doesn't get the support.
So he'll be Garrett Cole 2.0.
Yeah, and then we all know what happened to Garrett Cole. So I just think that Pittsburgh has an opportunity to kind of make up for the Garrett Cole miss and try to build a team around him and maybe convince him to stay, whether it's getting bullpen help or whether it's getting uh, a lineup to help on the offensive side. Because first free agent or the first time he's gonna hit that trademark uh, uh, block, he's going.
Yeah, and we have plenty of time before we get to that point. Hopefully,
Right.
there's a large gap between we're talking about his trade possibilities, but for now we are gonna stay in the state of Pennsylvania and deal with the lurking background. And with that being said, I'm just gonna put that up there for a second. The Philadelphia Phillies, the best team in baseball at the moment, the only team with a winning percentage over 700,
Mm-hmm.
is on an absolute tear right now, and it's something where they don't really have a weakness per se.
No.
You can kind of pick and choose your spots, but I think as a whole they are, for all the money that was spent throughout the league and all the moves that were made trade wise, they're probably well, not sneakily now because we're a third way into the season, but when they kind of went on this start of the run in May, they've sneakily shown themselves to be the most complete team in baseball.
Yeah, and the way they've done it has been, I think, something that no one expected, which is that pitching is very dominant. Whether it's the rotation, guys in the bullpen that were, you know, kind of resurrecting their career in Philly.
Yeah.
Uh, Obviously, Bryce Harper, um, just being, if he can just get his strikeouts down, he's going to put himself in MVP candidate this year. And I think one of the most uh, surprising things about Philly is just how how much they were able. How do I want to put this? They're not letting the Braves get a stranglehold on that NL East.
Yeah, and I think everybody coming to this year thought this was going to be the Braves division to lose, and
Yeah.
that they would kind of be in that wild card discussion where it kind of the roles have flipped at least through the first third of the season, where Philly has kind of kept everybody at bay. I don't think they've lost a series since the opening one to Cincinnati.
Yeah.
I can go check, but I'm fairly certain in prep for this, I didn't see them. They split a couple, but they pretty much not lost a series since the opening series against the Reds, which is
And to
crazy.
add to your point, uh, not only I don't did anyone expect the Philly to be where they are. I don't think anyone expected to, wake up on May 25th and see or 24th and see that the Philadelphia Phillies have the best record in baseball of all baseball, not just the NL.
Yeah, and doing that with a guy like Ranger Suarez leading the way, 9-0, 1 and change ERA. Everybody kind of would say that Zach Wheeler would be doing what he's doing. He's yeah.
Or the emergent,
Where
or
is he
the,
in terms of the league in strikeouts? He's up there.
or even what a guy like Spencer Turnbull is doing for the team, where I think that while I was not shocked that Detroit let him go, um, it's just one of those things where, like, you know, he probably was an afterthought for the Phillies, and he's coming in and he's got an ERA in the low twos. What's he like 4-1 or something, 3-1. Um, so he's helping out tremendously as well. Um, even a guy like uh, Walker, who they put in the bullpen, he got a high ERA, but that's okay because he's just a mop up guy who is gonna go in there and just eat inning when they need him to, and they don't need him to start. Like I think the Mets relied on him to start a few years ago.
But also in that same regard, if you have a guy going down and you have a guy go
Yeah,
through a rough patch, you know that you can plug him in and get innings out of him.
right,
And
and significant innings too.
yeah, they may
So
not be the greatest innings, but
no,
you're not going to have to burn that bullpen.
but also Philly's offense is good enough to, like, if he were to just maintain, like, let's say Zach Wheeler, he has an off day. He gives up 5 runs in two and a third, and he gets yanked. You put him Walker, hoping he can go 4 innings and kind of
Yeah,
slow the bleeding and allow that Phillies offense to crawl back into it. And I think that they have the offense and the bullpen to come back in any situation. And that's what made them so good so far this year.
yeah, and that's they kind of haven't had that adversity yet, which is I think every team, even the big ones, are going to face at some point this year. And
Yeah,
for them to have that depth and to have those guys that have that versatility between the pen and the rotation, even a guy like Christopher Sanchez, who was used in both roles last year and it is kind of looking just as good this year in similar fashion. It's just it's kind of a a knock on the people who were made, well, us included, predicting coming into this year, kind of slighting Philadelphia as being a team that could potentially be this good. Because if you look at like you just said, the bullpen, there's a lot of kind of retreads and guys that are catching fire at the right time. But that's any bullpen every year. Teams always kind of get those guys that either reclamation projects and just do
yeah,
better with a change of scenery,
yeah,
or they're guys that just catch a lightning in a bottle for a year and you ride that wave.
yeah.
I personally think Philly is a team that could weather pretty much any storm to both the lineup and the rotation. But in the end, I do think they are going to have to go get some bullpen arms to really sure things up, and we'll discuss that those options in a little bit. But anything other things that you want to say about just kind of their current roster construction before we?
Well, you mentioned. I mean, I think we have to acknowledge that there's always a possibility that Bryce Harper ends up on the IL at some point this season. He does seem to, as his career goes on, he does seem to find himself more and more on that injured list for a brief period of time or for a month or two. It doesn't matter, but like, so I think that that's a concern to um, kind of look at. I think that Schwarber can go through some real rough droughts throughout the season. That that could be something to keep an eye on. So it's I think it's important that they have such a balance right now. Um, and as we're going to talk about in a little while, um, they're a team that should not look at themselves in the position they're in and think we don't need to get better. They're it's never a bad idea to add talent, and I think the Phillies are a team that if they can do it, they should, because even if for insurance purposes, um, it will help them. Maybe not in August, but it'll certainly help them in October.
Yeah, and that's something that I think, and we've talked about in prep for this particular episode.
Yeah,
They don't have a gun shy front office. They have some people who are going to use their prospect capital. I think I wouldn't say recklessly, but I would say that they don't particularly care about having a bunch of people in the top 100 prospects list.
I
They
think
kind of have a San Diego mentality.
so. But I think the difference between Dombrowski, um, Dave Dombrowski, for people who didn't know, is a GM. I think the difference is that while he is not one to value prospects, uh, when he does trade prospects, it's usually the right decision. He's very meticulous about who he wants to bring into the clubhouse and how they'll fit. You know, if he sees a big name on the market that can help his ball club, he will get rid of three top prospects, maybe three mid-level prospects to get that guy, even if it's for 2 months, because he knows that guy has the best chance of helping this whatever team win now. And also, he has a very good knack for getting a rental player and having the ability to make them stay with the team that is rented.
Yeah, and like I said, it's probably like a bit above 50-50 as you talk about that rental conversion. We'll say he guy and he gets him to kind of buy in, and it's kind of a blessing and a curse. I'd say is you're giving up prospects, but you're also showing that you're showing to the player coming in that you're willing to make that sacrifice to
Yes.
get them. So it
Yeah.
kind of it gives them that boost where you're going. I know you can. Everybody reads these things and they can see where these guys are ranked or whatever, or you can look at their stats and see how much they're valued in baseball circles and know that you are willing to give up them to come get me to play for your team. That has to kind of yeah give you a pat on the back before you're even putting the new jersey on.
But and a lot of it is a sales pitch, right? I mean, he's got to be a good salesman because he's basically like, you know, I think when we talk about the um, trade guys for the Phillies, I think he's got to be able to be like, imagine, let's say it's a hitter, for example, right? He's got to be able to sit down with them because I think it's more and more of these bigger name guys have no trade clause. And so you have to kind of convince him to come here to waive it so that they can come here. And I think his pitch has got to be like, just imagine you and Bryce Harper in the lineup and what the damage you can do in the NLE and then the playoff and get guys to buy into that at the expense of prospects that I think Dombrowski knows like could be hit or miss.
Yeah, and we were discussing the other day how they could use some of those prospects to one shore up the bullpen as we were talking about before. They won't have the services of Andrew Painter this year. Unfortunately, he's got Tommy John, so that's their number one prospects off the table. But they got a couple guys in that next tier
Yeah.
where it's you could get kind of a David Price light going into the playoffs. But if, like you said, there's a person that comes available, we're going to discuss the teams that are I would put them firmly out of it already
Yeah.
that could move players on. And if you watch baseball, you could probably glean the couple of teams that we're already talking about because we've either discussed the bad before or you can just pull up the standings and see the teams that are still under 20 wins and kind of put two and two together. The my biggest thing is how early are they willing to make these moves? Because I'm always of the mindset that if you act proactively with these teams now instead of waiting towards the end, don't wait for players to get injured. Don't wait for teams to be able to hold you ransom because they know that, oh, we have two guys struggling in the pen right now and we need to go get somebody.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts about kind of getting ahead of the game now and making at least one move to show both the team that you're committed and your fans, obviously, that you're committed to it, but also to kind of get ahead of the chaos that comes with the later months and eventually the trade deadline.
Well, I think it's going to depend on two things. Uh, I think it's going to depend on because I would say before the All-Star break, they make a move. I think that's safe to say. However, um, I think it depends on two things. One, where they are by All-Star weekend in terms of the standings and just as a team in general, injuries and struggles and all that stuff that comes with it,
Mm-hmm.
and where the Braves are. Because if the Braves start catching fire, I think the Phillies I don't want to use this word because I don't think Dombrowski does this, but panic and try to solidify at least the division for the Phillies and not let the Braves kind of open that window. And if that's the case, if they're separated by 3 games by All-Star Weekend, I think he's making calls. You know, I think he might be making calls 4th of July if they're in a position to go out and get someone to wrap up the division before it's too late.
Yeah, and especially because I think we're going to kind of keep the two teams in the division because I don't think that's something where they're going to be shopping in-house, so to speak, where I don't think Miami or the Mets are willing to do them any favors. So it's going to be something where you're probably looking in the American League to do your shopping. And we'll discuss that in a second. But I want to jump on your Atlanta point for a second because that is kind of just that looming specter. They're 6 games behind right now. They've kind of been up and down all year. They've had really good runs and really bad runs, and they're still 29 and 18.
Yeah,
because the good runs have outweighed the bad, but there's enough just gaps in the Atlanta. We'll just potholes on the Atlanta talent road right now that there weren't in past years, but there's also been ones that have been filled in for really unconventional sources, so to speak. So that's I think for the Braves, I
was just the thing about the Braves.
Oh,
am I there?
All right, yeah. Your mic just cut out for a second.
So I think the thing about the Braves in the month of May at least is they have had some ugly losses. Like when they lose bad. It's not a 3-2 game. There's been a few, but I mean, I'm looking at their month of May schedule, and let's say from May 3rd, they had a 3-game series with the Dodgers, where the Dodgers swept them. Then they beat up the Red Sox. They took 2 out of 3 from the Mets.
I think that fact allows us to put this up.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, Chris Sale shut out the Red Sox, so there you go. Way to go. So, but then they go into the Cubs. They win the first 2 games. Then they lose bad, 7-1. And then they go to San Diego and just, other than the second game of the doubleheader, just get annihilated. You got scores of, they get 3-1 and then 9-1, 6-5. So you're looking at, what are you looking at? 18 runs to your 9. So you get outscored by San Diego. Then it's the Cubs, and they got beat up by the Cubs. And now, as of right now, they are getting shut out by the Pirates 7-0. So the reason I bring that up is because for everything that is true about the Braves, and they are a team that is a threat to baseball and can absolutely win the World Series this year, they have underperformed, I think. And it allowed Philadelphia to usurp them in the division and just kind of look like the better team.
Yeah, and that was, and we all know kind of like we've talked before, Atlanta is one of those teams that could rally off 12 wins
Yeah.
and no one would bat an eye.
Mm-hmm.
But for now, yeah, I agree with you that there is that bit of frailty. There's that vulnerability in Atlanta that we didn't see in basically until the playoffs
Yeah.
these past couple of years, because there was no real challenge to them in the regular season, even when you had the Mets go on their big get to 100 wins type deal, and when you had the Phillies get into the World Series, there was something where nobody really gave them the time of day, because it was just like the Braves are more talented. So why are we even going to go that? And now I think Philadelphia has really bridged that gap. And it may, if you look at it on paper and you kind of look at it with a video game lens, you'll say, all right, Atlanta's still the better team, and they have better players.
Yep.
But I think Philly's more well-rounded.
Yeah.
And they have guys both performing out of their skin, and they have guys that have the expectations of playing well, like the Nolas and the Wheelers and the Harpers and the Alec Bombs of the world that are really just playing up to expectations. And that kind of allows guys that aren't really setting the world on fire. Like you got Trey Turner, he's struggling a little bit, but he's doing enough with everybody else thriving around him. So nobody's sitting there going, oh man, Trey Turner's really bringing this team down because he's got a couple of really bad outings in him. And you're just going, maybe we need to bench him. There's no reason to.
Yeah.
Because you know that you can do the rotation with Sosa. You can give him a day off, but you don't have to give him like multiple days off, because you can get that hard reset whenever you really want. And you don't need to push that through the entire lineup. You can just kind of pick and choose. If you see a guy like have an 0 for 4 with like 3 strikeouts, you can go like, hey, we're going to give you a day. We're coming back to you, but just know if we call on you to like pinch hit, then we're asking for you to have your head right.
Yeah.
And I think in most of those instances so far this year, when they've done that to somebody, it's paid dividends. So I think they're kind of just hitting all the operatic high notes right now. And as a fan of another first place team in the league, not trembling, but I'm slightly ready for a jump scare, kind of scared with the Phillies.
Well, they also have a general manager who's not afraid to take his foot off the gas. So if he sees an opportunity to keep going, he's going to keep going.
Yeah.
Now, you bring up the Dodgers. They will also. Well, I don't think the Braves will necessarily answer to the Phillies. Like, I think we agree that the Braves on paper are a better team. And I don't think that anything that the Phillies do is going to dictate what Atlanta does. But I do think what Phillies do is going to dictate what the Dodgers do.
Yeah.
And the Dodgers, I think the Dodgers, how do I want to put this? The Dodgers are in just as good a position to get anyone the Philadelphia Phillies are looking at. And as we've seen in this offseason, Los Angeles seems like a better destination than Philadelphia right now. And if they can get guys to waive the no trade clause between LA and Philly, I think it's going to be LA.
But then that just comes to the point where you got your recruiting guys going. You got and there's been, especially through like the top teams in the National League, you got a lot of guys that have played together, and you kind of get that interwovenness now where it becomes a recruiting war between like, oh, are you going to take Mookie Betts' phone call, or are you going to take Bryce Harper's phone call?
Or even, do you want to play with Bryce Harper and Kyle Schwarber, or you want to play with Shohei Ohtani and Mookie Betts?
Yeah,
I mean, that's the pitch right there.
Yeah, but some guys may view themselves as they kind of don't want to be the third banana. Where in Philly they could go. it's going to be Bryce Harper's team, unless they somehow
Right, but you
pull
could
the
overtake the Kyle Schwarber aspect of it. You
yeah.
could go in and be
Whereas
the number 2.
yeah, whereas the Dodgers kind of have a lot of 1A, 1B, 1C kind of guys between
Right,
Betts, Otani, and Freeman, and even
and
a guy like Will Smith. Like you're not going to go get a guy that's going to kind of supplant him in his spot in the lineup right now. So
yeah,
it takes a special. As much as the Dodgers, I think, are a better situation for a potential trade or just a guy that gets put on waivers late in the summer. I
mhm,
think Philadelphia is a better spot because you could, like you said, you may be the second banana, but you're not going to be the fifth.
right,
You can go in there and you can still kind of get your pick of where you want to be in the lineup. You can get that comfort of knowing that there's going to be some things catered to you because you're being brought into this team to not only keep them at the level that they're at right now, but push them to that
and
higher echelon.
and if I'm a Brave fan, uh, I think I would be very nervous about what the front office is going to do for the trade deadline because, as I know as a Red Sox fan, they may take a look at this team and be like, "We're good enough to win," and not add anybody. And that should scare you if Philadelphia starts adding pieces that are just gonna, you know, eventually, if the Atlanta Braves can't stay consistent at all this season, and I'm not saying that's not gonna happen because we just said that they could rattle off 12 wins and be right back in it, and I don't even think they're out of it. They're 6 games behind. But
Yeah.
if they don't do anything, and Phillies get a starting pitcher and a left-handed power hitter or right-handed power hitter and widen the gap even more, and then you go after someone, but then the Dodgers scoop him up and now no one's available, that's what I'm concerned about as a Braves fan.
Yeah, you don't want to be that bronze medalist in the arms race.
Because I'm going to tell you, Atlanta fans, don't think Chris Sale's going to make it the whole season.
Yeah.
While he looks great now,
Yeah.
you wait.
And he's been really good.
He's been amazing. He's been so amazing that he might as well just slap the Red Sox in the face. But the shoe will fall off. And
Yeah.
then you better hope that you have a backup plan. Because I don't think Atlanta's pitching, starting, is that great right now.
In terms of options past what they have.
Yeah.
Because I would say that in terms of a staff 1 through 5, as it's currently constituted, it's pretty damn good. But
how long is that going to last?
when you have Strider out for the season and you have Elder already kind of hitting some bumps in the roads,
and then
when Sale gets hurt, and I'm going to say when because he's given us he's given us no reason otherwise over these past few years.
Yeah.
Charlie Morton pitching great right now. He is 40.
Yeah.
There's a
you know who else pitched really good, made an all-star game, and then collapsed? Rich Hill. So it happens.
There's a lot of guys in that waiting in the wings that I don't have the most faith on.
And that's the thing is that what do the Braves value? You know what I mean? Like how much do they value their prospects to be able to part ways if it means winning a championship? And I don't know if the Braves are going to be as aggressive as Dombrowski will be.
Yeah, and that's I think Atlanta is that team that they showed over the past few years that they're willing to go get guys and make trades en masse.
Yeah.
When they went on their World Series run, they got a bunch of guys in late that all made contributions, but it was all kind of late on, and they kind of lucked out with a couple guys
Right.
like the Solaires of the world kind of coming in and catching fire.
Yep.
Whereas now I think there's, like you said, there's enough teams that are going to be at the top of the league that are going to be more attractive destinations who will be willing to give up more assets and be able to take on crappier contracts than Atlanta will be willing to. And that could be what their downfall is.
And I think that we should probably say, because we both agree and we talked about it in our our meeting last time, but I think we both agree that the NL is significantly better than the AL. And what I mean by that is the competition is far and away better than anything that's going on in the American League. And therefore, getting players to get to the postseason to help you win a World Series is going to be so much more competitive amongst all those teams than it will be in the AL. Because the AL, you know, if any of those teams in the West catch fire and make a threat, Houston, Texas, Seattle, you name it, fine. But honestly, the way it's going, it's really between Cleveland or Kansas City, New York, and Baltimore. That's it. Where in the NL, you got the Dodgers, you got Philadelphia, you got uh, the Braves, you got the Cubs, you got the Milwaukee Brewers. So much is going on in the NL that those phone calls are going to be off the hook all day, or all month of July. And people are going to be fighting and clawing and giving up things that they might not have wanted to give up a year ago, but because they have to do it, they will. And I think that that's the kind of thing that scared me if you're a Brave fan is, will they be able to keep pace with what's going to probably be a fast and frenzied trade deadline?
Yeah, because well, I'm just kind of going to be a translator for a second. We're not saying that the American League has bad teams,
No,
or saying that there's no chance that an American League team's going to win the World Series. What I'm gleaming is that the NL there's going to be more guys going after the same people. I think there's going to
yeah,
be more teams that, even if it ends up being a bit of delusion, that think that they're going to, as much as San Diego has kind of blown it up a bit
yeah.
over the past couple of years after their crazy run, they still act with the thought process that they can go make a playoff run, and they get guys and they put these things in these things, and they still don't really value their prospects at all. And
But they still believe. Where I think in what I'm trying to say is in the American League, the needle hasn't really moved because like the Yankees have been consistently good
yeah,
all year. The Royals have been good for the most part all year. Cleveland has been good for the most part all year. Baltimore is Baltimore. Texas is starting to figure it out. But in the NL, you could have a different best record in the NL every month because
and
I
that's
think that they are better constructed teams.
yeah, and that's going to affect how the kind of the bidding wars happen.
Right.
But speaking of those bidding wars, I think we should just not to close out on this, but I think this is something that we can kind of take it towards that spiraling at the end of the show, where we look at we talk about the teams that are going to be kind of cherry picked from over the next couple months to bolster these high in the standings teams. And I wanted to just focus on two that I think, and if you have others, by all means. I think it's just going to kind of be a rating of two teams in the American League. One is not going to be surprising to anybody. The other may be, but where they are right now and kind of the money they will probably be looking to offload after their project has kind of blown up in their face. You got the White Sox and the Blue Jays. I think those are two teams that are going to be looking to unload copious amounts of money this summer, and those are two teams that really should be getting looked at by the teams that we've been talking about the entire time in terms of looking at trade targets.
Yeah.
And I'll just sit here right now. There's no chance that anybody's going to pry Vlad Jr. or probably even Bo Bichette from Toronto. But I don't think there is another person in that rotation or in that lineup who is untouchable.
I think George Springer could go. I think that Jose Barrios could go. Yeah, I think I agree with you. I absolutely agree with you. I just think that Toronto has been underwhelming for the most part this season. They don't seem to have it this year, and where Baltimore and New York are clearly the better team. Because I think you and I agree that we didn't expect the Yankees to be this good after coming off last year, and obviously the addition of Soto has just made them, a World Series contender. It's like the proof is in the pudding. The guys are hitting home runs every night, whether it's Judge, Stanton, or Soto. So the Yankees are back if you want to put it in that kind of terms. And then Baltimore is not going away. I still think Baltimore is the best team in the AL. I still think they're the team to beat. Yeah, they're 4 games behind the Yankees, but I think that they'll make a move. They still got the core guys, the young guys that are going to be around for a while. I think that Texas can flip a switch. You have been saying for weeks that you think it's a matter of time before Houston turns it on. And we all know that if Houston starts to catch fire, they'll go make a move to help them win. Yep. I think we're both once again for the 16th year in a row disappointed in Seattle.
Always pulling the rug out from under us.
I always. I'd be curious to see how far and what the Kansas City Royals are going to do to stay afloat. They are also one of the better teams in the AL. I think Minnesota has kind of almost waved the white flag. I don't know if you agree with that one, but Cleveland's still there. So, you got those guys. And then in the NL, it's just, like we already said, it's wide open.
Yeah, Minnesota's the one that, because I never really want to rule anybody out in the West, because I just think there's so many teams that are going to just go up and down. Mm-hmm. Nobody has a positive run differential in the West. So I don't think anybody's going to be, if any team's going to be a seller, it's definitely going to be Oakland.
Yeah.
Because the Angels, I think, are still kind of that weird delusion where until they're mathematically out, aren't going to try to do anything. Whereas I think Chicago and Toronto are two teams that I think not only may wave the proverbial white flag a bit early, but have a bunch of really crummy contracts that they're probably going to look to move. And it's ones that I think would be enticing for teams, at least not for if not for this season, for the next one. And I think whereas the White Sox, I think, are going to trade more players volume wise, I think Toronto has the ones that are a bit more enticing.
What about Tampa?
See, I think Tampa's another one that is
like they're gonna keep fighting.
I think that, they're quietly deluded, where you just go there's not it's I don't think there's going to be any time where Tampa is trading guys until it gets to the point where was like, oh, this guy's going to make $8 million, so we need to get room.
Right.
But, yeah, I think you look at Toronto, and it's just there's guys that you could kind of go get for upside, and you just look at you got Justin Turner sitting there where if you're a team that goes if you need like a veteran with playoff experience, you can go get him. He's not going to like turn your team around potentially on the field, but if you need that clubhouse rallying guy, then you got a guy like that. That would be perfect.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. That's actually like the quintessential perfect trade guy. You know, a guy that can come in, veteran guy, help the locker room. You know, not be like a serious threat in the lineup or whatever, but give the team an extra shot in the arm.
Yeah, and that's kind of what you're going to be looking for. He's not going to cost you a ton. And I think Jordan Romano is a guy that's not going to last the season there.
Yeah.
Somebody's going to go pick him up. That's I think that's the guy that I would, if I was Philly, I'd go get, just so you have that kind of danger from both sides of the where in terms of your bullpen, you can on any given day, if you need a lefty guy in Alvarado, or if you have Romano for a righty heavy lineup.
Right.
Hold on, let me, because I've seen everything that's come up, but anytime I've hit show, it's not. I did a quick refresh, so these were early on. Ryan came in, so I was popping hot. Then 40 minutes later, we got Paul Skeens, and we got friend of the show Greg calling a flag. We got wrong sport, but we're hanging out regardless. How's it going, buddy? But yeah, I think in the end, where it's going to be interesting, and when we circle back around to this, like we did with Skeens last week, to kind of just see if Philadelphia at the end of the month is something where they kind of hit that slide. And if we're coming back next week and Philly lost like 4 or 5 in a row, which I'm going to come out and say now, with the teams that they have at their end of their schedule this month, I don't think it's going to happen.
No.
Colorado and the Giants and the Cardinals aren't particularly setting the world on fire at the moment.
Nope. And
he's mentioning that the Royals look good. We concur. That it's I think next week we may be looking at what the central the division of ghosts of whatever. I thought I had an analogy built up, but just that one where everybody left a lot of teams for dead. But I think Cleveland and Kansas City, that's going to be a fun one going forward.
Yep.
But I think we'll see what teams underneath them, if Minnesota's 12 game like winning streak just becomes like, did that happen? Was that just a fever dream? Did we still just, is this something that happened this year?
It was a 12-game winning streak.
We both have a diluted value on the on the Mariners, unfortunately.
Yep. Never gonna give that down until they win the World Series.
Yeah.
Then I can die happy.
Yeah. You gotta be wrong. You gotta be wrong so many times. So when you're finally right,
we could be like, we told you they were gonna win.
It only took 46 years, but either way. Man. Anything that you want to discuss before we hit that dusty trail? And when it comes to this, I think we've covered a lot of bases in terms of what we think of Philadelphia for this year. And as always, these will be as VODs on YouTube. So if you have something that you think about after the fact and you want to throw it on there, by all means, we
Or just ask
read everything, and we'll reply in kind.
a
Because
question for next week.
yeah,
We'll do like a Q&A.
on the Facebook, on that any YouTube things, just
Yeah.
let us know, and we'll kind of go through those things, and that could shape what we talk about, because we come in this kind of like free form,
Yeah.
kind of try to put a topic in play. But if something more interesting comes up, or if people are in the chat and want to hear about something different, I'm not gonna beat you all over the head with something
No,
for
we'll
no
stick it to a
apparent
script.
reason. Yeah.
No, yeah, yeah,
This
yeah.
could be mildly democratic.
Yeah, leave a question. We'll do like we'll get enough questions. We'll do like a Q&A segment.
Yeah, a little mailbag.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's a another thing for another time. And with that being said, this has been episode 65 of Opposite Field. Trevor. Oh, I always do this. Colin over here. I can't. The mirroring of the camera will always fuck me up. And as always, the most ungraceful exits. We'll see y'all next week.
See you later.
Enjoy the Memorial Day weekend. Go get some sun.
Bye.